Okay, so this isn't a review of Pokemon SoulSilver per se. I don't really want to review the Pokemon games unless I have a strong attachment to them, like I do with Scarlet and Violet, Ultramoon, or the Legends games. So I feel like I haven't covered everything there is in SoulSilver, nor do I feel like I truly understand it on that deeper level that we're going to review. No, I'd rather just talk about my feelings on the game in a more loose, casual format. Like I'm talking to a friend. So, without further ado, these are my silly thoughts on Pokemon SoulSilver. Pokemon SoulSilver is far from the first classic Pokemon game, and I doubt it will be the last I'll play. I think at this point I've gotten the gist of what these classic games are about. Namely in the EXP department, because in the newer games, the EXP share lets you gain a lot more EXP than you otherwise would, due to the fact that the EXP share multiplies EXP the more Pokemon you have in your party. Whereas with the older games, it's the opposite. You should usually have a small party, so you can bank on the EXP that the wild Pokemon naturally have, rather than spending EXP to raise a Pokemon at a lower level to a higher level. That's the main thing that got me with the classic games. Not that the classic Pokemon games are hard by any means. In fact, the newer games often have stronger teams than the older ones. It's just that the older games typically have the EXP advantage. SoulSilver is generally seen as the worst for this, given Johto is known for its particularly awkward level curve. While I was underleveled, I didn't really have that much of a problem with progressing because the teams are just so weak. Take Sabrina for example. I thought I'd really struggle with her because her Espeon is Espeon. Her Espeon can quickly build up Calm Mind boost before any of my teammates could take her out, because I was using like a Noctowl and a Golem. Noctowl isn't very strong physically, and Golem kind of dies to any special attack. In the end, I did just blow up the Espeon with my Golem, which is pretty funny. I thought I'd be in for it after that, but I remember after beating her third Pokemon, I was fully expecting to have a really strong ace to contend with, and then the battle just kind of ended. It was a weird feeling. I'm not sure if I'd have gotten better at the game or just better at doling out my EXP or anything. Maybe my team was better. I mean, I was using a Noctowl and a Togetic. I don't think it was that good. So, yeah. Really the only, like, roadblock I came across was Lance. Actually, I'm sure there was other roadblocks. I remember that one trainer with the Magmar and the Electabuzz in the coastal routes, on the cliffs, I think it's Route 27. That one gave me a really hard time because, well, I didn't really have anything to deal with both of them at the same time. My flying types would get cooked by Electabuzz, and my Meganium would get cooked by the Magmar. I remember Lance giving me a lot of trouble when I got to his fight, but putting Blizzard on my Slowking solved that problem pretty easily because, surprisingly, aside from one of them, most of his movesets on the Dragonites are really bad. That's another issue of Heart Gold SoulSilver, the movesets are pretty bad. I know I'm talking a lot of negatives, but all Pokemon games are so similar, so I'm trying to keep this video to mostly what is unique about SoulSilver, though I guess I'm also using this as a chance to talk about the classic Pokemon games in general, the ones with all the EXP shares specifically. I found Meganium in particular to have a particularly bad moveset. It feels like it wants to be a Stormon, but it doesn't get toxic. And the toxic TM is post-game as well, so Meganium mostly just stalled, and it didn't even really have a strong grass move. Its strongest grass move was either Magical Leaf, which doesn't do much. It's only 60 base power. Petal Dance, which is only 90 BP in Gen 4. And it locks Meganium into the move, which means that it can't Synthesis when it wants to recover. And Solar Beam, which is extremely impractical unless you have Sun Up. I suppose Meganium could live both turns, so maybe I should try that, but well, prior to Sword and Shield, it's really hard to get a Pokemon to remember a move, because you have to give a heart skill to the move reminder. That's one of the things I really like about the modern games, the quality of life. I know a lot of people say that it just makes the games easier. I think it makes the games more fun. I like having a team that is at its strongest, rather than having to compromise. Speaking of compromise, the HMs. I mostly kept the HMs to Rattata and my Raticate, though I did teach Fly to my Noctowl, which is actually a boon since it gave it a good physical attack. Since most special walls in Gen 2... Sorry, most special attackers in Gen 2 are also special walls, so having a physical attack weave through them is very nice. Even if Noctowl's attack isn't the best. I gave Surf to my Slowking as well. Surf is kind of the exception to the HMs because Surf is like the best special attack for water types. Ignoring things with secondary effects like Scald. In fact, when I was playing X and Y, I had both Scald and Surf on my Panpour. I know Panpour is known for clicking Scald a lot, and Scald definitely comes in handy with that 30% burn chance. But yeah, most of the other HMs were on my Raticate. I didn't really have problems with HMs in this game. I think it was the Sinnoh games that really went overboard with the HMs. And I guess Ruby and Sapphire have too much water HMs. That joke just keeps on giving, doesn't it? I could just describe every problem with Ruby and Sapphire, that I'll get to that when I get to that. I guess I'll talk about the rest of my team as well. Noctowl was generally my special wall, though I couldn't do that much outside of walling special attackers. It can set up screens and occasionally hit Hypnosis, but its attacking stats aren't that good. Togepi was more of an all-purpose wall, but because it can evolve into Togekiss, I was stuck with Togetic. And Togetic just doesn't quite have the bulk to last throughout the entire game, but it has a ton of tech moves. I think I specifically ran Charm on it. Okay, so on Togetic I was running Yawn and Charm as, I guess, the primary two moves, as well as Extra Sensory. The Togepi from the egg comes with Extra Sensory, which carries it quite a long way, although it does eventually get outclassed. Although Togetic was still one of the faster Psychic users. I don't remember if it did more or less damage than Noctowl with Extra Sensory. I don't remember using the last move that much. Currently I have it as Safeguard, but I think I might have tried Encore or some other move at some point. Again, the movesets aren't that great in this game. Like Golem Holly ran a fairly standard set of Ground Stab, Rock Stab. Ground Stab I believe was pretty much always Earthquake, though very early on it was Magnitude. The Rock Stab was Rock Blast for a while, but I eventually upgraded it to Stone Edge. I also ran Rock Polish on it, but I don't remember clicking it very much because I don't actually know. Last move was Explosion, which was kind of an X factor. Prior to Gen 5, Explosion could basically take out anything that isn't a Ghost type because it deals double the damage against defense. As in, defense is half in the calculations prior to Gen 5. So I could sacrifice Holly to basically blow up anything. And if I wanted to be cheesy, I could even use a revive on them, which I will admit I did do in a battle or two. I wasn't doing a strictly no items run, because I think I'd just get frustrated in having to grind if I did do that. My Slowking Papaya ran water and psychic attacks for stab. So it was running Surf for a while. And I think it was running Zen Headbutt for a long time too, until I got Psychic. Strangely enough, I decided to run Nasty Plot on it. I think because there just wasn't really any better option because Gen 2. I also gave it Blizzard, mostly to do with Lance as mentioned, but it's also a good coverage move in general. Sometimes it could score a KO against like a grass type or something, since Slowking is pretty bulky. I had a friend who tried to evolve both Slowking and Golem, so thank you for that. You know who you are. My Ampharos is very standard, because Ampharos has a notably bad moveset. It's pretty much just an electric attack, a thunder wave, and 2 other moves. I think I ran the TM Flash mostly for Cave, so it did come in handy in a few battles. Though now I run Light Screen and Signal Beam on it. Signal Beam is useful for taking out grass types, although it doesn't do much damage because it's not a stab. It's also only 75 base power. I'm running Magnet on my Ampharos to boost up its electric damage because, let's be honest, Ampharos can't really do much else. My team is really slow, so Thunder Wave can really help patch that up, as Thunder Wave, I believe, 1/3 the speed stat rather than halves it like in later games. So even something super slow can outspeed something pretty quick if it's paralyzed. In the last slot I ran Light Screen on it, which I think replaced Flash. I remember now, I was running Charge instead of Signal Beam. So I think the coverage is more worth it than the boosted damage. If I wanted to boost up special defense, I'd rather use Light Screen than Charge. Finally is my Meganium, which ran Dual Screen Synthesis and Petal Dance. I wanted to run a poison move, but Poison Powder just wasn't really cutting it. My Meganium is called Bean Bomb, by the way. It's actually a really good stalling Pokemon. I remember in the battle against Whitney, it came down to basically a stall fest with the Whitney spamming Milk Drink and my Meganium spamming Synthesis. I came out on top thanks to 3 power flinches in a row, thanks to Sheepy the Ampharos. I do wish it had got Energy Ball, since that would synergize a lot better with the moveset, but I've already talked about that. Also, my Hoothoot is called Avery, and my Togetic, now a Togekiss, because in the post game, they're called Astria. And that's my team. Definitely not the best team, it's very lacking in the speed department. Though it is made up of a bunch of Pokemon I haven't really used before. And I'm pretty proud of all of them. I think all of them contributed to the battle in their own way. Even though they've had ups and downs in terms of power throughout the game. In fact, I'd really like to use Noctowl and Meganium again sometime. Maybe in Scarlet and Violet where they have a better moveset. I don't have particularly strong thoughts about the story of SoulSilver. As stories prior to Gen 7 really weren't anything special. Though I will shout out Gen 5 for at least trying. I think it fell quite flat, but it tried. A gold star for effort. Of course, Gen 2's story doesn't try, but I won't say it's bad because it knows that it isn't trying, so it doesn't try to have any world-ending stakes like the later stories. It's the closest I think we've come to a typical Pokemon adventure without intervening through like a terrorist group or anything. I mean, Team Rocket is there, but they didn't really do much. Well, the one thing they did do is make me question if I even like this series in the first place, which seems to happen every time I have to do the evil team story. It's just wave after wave after wave of uninteresting grunts. I'm so glad they got rid of this trope. Say what you will about the Team Star Barrage, but the fact that it's over quickly makes it so much better than having to battle them individually. The admins also weren't anything special. I was expecting at least one to have a tricky team, but no, not really. I don't even remember there being a particularly big bad boss, like say Guzma or probably the original Giovanni. So yeah, that part of the story was kind of a bust in terms of the gameplay pacing. This game felt a lot longer than the other Pokemon games, probably because it has 8 extra gyms. So I think the time between the gyms is shorter, especially in Kanto. You can kind of blast through Kanto if you know what you're doing, which I find fun since I like my games being breezy typically. I really don't have anything to say about the story, do I? It's just very standard and uninteresting, honestly. Not bad by any means, it's just there's not really anything to talk about. Like there would be in either a good story like the ones in Gen 7 and Gen 9, or even the bad ones like in Gen 6, or whatever I have to say about Gen 5, which for the sake of not making everyone watching mad, I'll save for another time. Though I suppose it isn't a particularly hot take to criticize Gen 5 story anymore. I mean, I'd be happy to hear someone else talk about the Gen 2 story if they're passionate about it. Just not me, okay? I'm surprised at how many Johto Pokemon I used. I'm not particularly worked up about using only the Pokemon native to the region in my games. My Scarlet and Violet playthrough is full of old Pokemon like Gardevoir and Gothitelle and Sneasel. So I guess that makes it kind of funny that I think all but one of the Pokemon I was using in my SoulSilver playthrough were Johto natives. I think the only one that wasn't was Golem. Let me check. Yes, Golem was the only one that isn't native to Johto, unless you count Slowking, who Slowpoke and Slowbro are native to Kanto, but Slowking was introduced in Johto. I haven't played Gen 1 yet, so the Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon are kind of mixed together in my mind now. It was kind of a cool feeling getting to experience those of Kanto Pokemon for what felt like the first time. Obviously I have seen Pokemon like Caterpie and Weedle before, but it felt unique to encounter them in, well, not the game they were introduced in, the region they were introduced in at least. I think that was helped by the fact that lots of the NPCs use the Kanto Pokemon as well, so I got to fight a lot of Beedrill and Butterfree and other Kanto Pokemon. I don't have a particularly strong affinity for the Kantomons in general, but you know. In fact, I think on the whole I prefer the Johtomons because they have generally cuter designs, as opposed to the slightly strange monstrosities in Gen 1. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I guess I mean the Gen 1 Pokemon feel more like Pokemon, or Pocket Monsters. Well, the Gen 2 mons are a lot more cuddly, I guess. In general, I don't mind using repeat Pokemon if I think that I get something interesting out of it. Like, I'm fine to use Meganium and Noctowl against Scarlet and Violet because they have... Well, I assume we'll have a better moveset so I can take better advantage of their strength. Or in, say, X and Y where I can use their Mega Evolutions. Or if they're in a completely different environment like in the Legends games. Pretty much every Pokemon I've used prior feels different in Legends games, and every Pokemon in the Legends games feels different to what I've used in the main series. Because they're just fundamentally different games. Even Legends Arceus feels different due to its unique battle system, though I've gone into that already in the past. Although I don't think Diamond and Pearl have particularly great graphics, I do actually like the look of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Feels that there's more variety than just slightly snowy grasslands like there are in Diamond and Pearl. The battle sprites are basically the same as Diamond and Pearl, so they're fine, but not particularly amazing or anything. The music is interesting because, while I'm not the biggest fan of the Gen 1 songs, or even the Gen 2 songs, I do think that the way they're remixed in Heart Gold SoulSilver sounds really nice. Though it is very funny encountering a trainer in Kanto and then just getting blasted by like a Pokemon Showdown theme. It feels like I'm going back to Gen 9 VGC every time I encounter one of these people. It is nice that I can hear Lavender Towel's music without it very annoying and off-putting sound font it had in the original. It actually sounds quite nice in the SoulSilver sound font. I thought the Pokeathlon was fun. It was nice to see some kind of off-the-wall JRPG minigame, which is apparently common to the genre. I think these are way better executed than the contests ever were. Contests felt like a good idea that were underbaked, whereas I think the Pokeathlon has reached its full potential in this game. It's also more about your gameplay rather than how you raise the Pokemon, which is the bread and butter of contests. Though Apple Juice is just as confusing as ever. I did try playing the Pokeathlon with a friend, but it didn't really work. Maybe it's because I was using Twilight Menu or something? I did give the bug catching contest a little go, but I don't really have a particular false Viper, so I didn't get much. Though the second time I tried, I somehow won, even though I don't believe I caught a particularly good Pokemon. I think it was just either a Metapod or a Butterfree. I could check, actually. Just give me a moment. I mean, I can cut this part out of the script, but, you know. Go, Avery! Sorry if my voice is kinda croaky. I've noticed that I have a ton of vocal fry today for some reason. I'm trying to stay alive and play a voice, but it's tricky. Voice training is hard, you know. Is it this Metapod? It was. It's Trinity the Metapod. I don't know how this level 16 Metapod managed to win me the contest, but oh well. I think that's about all I wanted to talk about with Pokemon SoulSilver. Oh, actually there is one more thing I want to talk about. Whitney. Not that Whitney was hard or anything, but she's interesting. I think I want to give Whitney her own video. So, sorry to make you wait. I just think it's interesting how there's a Pokemon early on in the game that feels like it hard counter certain strategies. Usually you could whittle away at Pokemon through repeated neutral hits even if they're weak, especially given that Whitney only has 2 Pokemon, but Milk Drink kind of eliminates that. It feels like you really need to status the Miltank either with poison to toxic to wear down their HP faster than they can milk drink, or paralysis to prevent them from teasing you with Stomp. I think that's pretty interesting, so I'll talk about it some other time. For now, I think I should get going. See you soon when I talk about Pokemon X and Y.